Sagicor Bank is.
It is now 7 o'clock right here on the family station, Love 101. And at this time, you're now invited to listen to The Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. And a special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook and, of course, YouTube Live. And in the main watch, world governments to unite. In the second watch, an international pandemic treaty. In our social media question, we ask, what would world governance look like and mean to you? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, here's our quote.
All right, I quote for this morning. I like criticism. It makes you strong. LeBron James.
Good morning, Brother Rashid.
Good morning, Mr. Stokeley. How you doing?
I'm well, my friend. I'm well. I hope you're doing well, sir.
Yes, I am doing absolutely well. I'm here.
Yes, indeed. Great listening to you, sir. And we're not in the studio together, but still hearing you, sir.
Definitely. Whether virtually or in person, we're still at the same place, talking.
At the same place.
All right. Blessings.
Yes, indeed. The main watch will be back after this break.
Of course, the Morning Watch today is brought to you by Home and Things, your construction finishes store. Just a quick announcement from our friends over there at the Caribbean. That's the Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, CCRP. If you're 50 and over, CCRP membership has many benefits. CCRP offers you great health plans through Gallagher Insurance Brokers and Sagicor, affordable home and auto insurance through J&J Silver Shield, as well as a world of fun experiences and discounts from your favorite service providers and retailers. Also, we do outreach and advocate for the elderly. Visit ccrponline.org or any of your offices in Kingston, Montego Bay, Mandeville, and Ocho Rios. Join CCRP today and live life to the fullest. This is Love 101, the family station.
This Easter, make Pashko part of your plans. For that outdoor event, we have tents, outdoor furniture, and igloos. Having a family feast? Pashko has cooking and baking supplies as well as food containers for the whole crew. If you are taking a trip, get your luggage at any Pashko location. And don't forget to pick up some Easter bun right there in store. Whatever your Easter plans are, we have you covered.
At Pashko, giving you more.
Phoenix Health and Vision Center now has 2 locations. St. Anne's Bay, 65 Main Street beside the health center. And now Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. You heard me right. Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. The only full-service eye care center for all your designer frames and designer glasses. Plus, complete eye care. Book all your appointments now in St. Anne's Bay. Call 876-972-2388. 876-589-8327. For Falmouth and its environs, call this number 876-533-0540. Looking forward to seeing you at both locations. Phoenix Health and Vision Center. Now at Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley, Marshall, attorney at law. In a recent Breitbart.com article, March 31, 2022, World Economic Forum, WEF, founder and executive chairman Klaus Schwab is said to have said, quote, "The time has come for world governments to unite as one and tackle global problems such as climate change, trade, and economic disruption without hindrance or delay." Several questions and concerns come to mind when considering united world governments or uniting world governments. And some of these concerns are clearly religious, based on the book of Revelation, etc. But let's start with some of the basics. What would uniting in terms of world governance mean, and what would it look like practically speaking? We have had the United Nations for decades now. However, is it that things appear to be taking a different turn here in 2022? We'll be listening to a clip right now from one of the presenters at the recent summit held. Take a listen.
A dramatic change where we are
across the world agree to a set of rules, and they agreed to play by them.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. We are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one.
Everyone's been predicting the demise of the dollar for a long time.
And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. So I find it very difficult to talk about the world order that we're coming into, given how very tenuous and unstable the current environment is. In my lifetime, this is the second time that I have seen the superpowers actually threaten the possibility of nuclear war. We're already in World War III. We are already.
Is that the end of the insert, Roisin?
In conflict that extends so far beyond Ukraine, actually.
The G7 froze, for the first time in history, the assets of a central bank. It wasn't because the U.S. did it; it's because the G7 did it.
I think we can end the clip there, Roisin. I think the point has been made by the presenter there. We have as our guests this morning, and we do apologize if there was a distortion in the line. I think at one point I may have even been removed from the live stream inadvertently. We have Reverend Basil Hanson, founder, president of MTM Television and a Christian activist, and Dr. Wayne West, chairman, Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. Dr. West and Reverend Hanson, good morning. How are you both?
Well, I'm fine. Good morning, Stokeley. Good morning, Basil.
Great having you both. Yes, indeed. Now, first of all, we know that there are many things in the news. We can't keep up with everything. But towards the end of March, I think many persons may not have realized that there was a summit held in the Middle East, and it was put on by the World Economic Forum. And as you can see, a number of things were discussed. And one of the main items that emerged was the need for countries to come together. They didn't indicate come together for every single point that a government focuses on, but it was pretty broad. In fact, it's focused on a number of areas, including, anything that the world would need to tackle as a world, and that it needs to be done with dispatch without any delay. Things such as climate change or climate crisis, however you term it, and a number of other issues. It could even be a future pandemic. Gentlemen, how do you see this? And is it a sign of things to come in your view? Or do you think this is not something to think about too much? Dr. West, what are your thoughts? Are you with us, Dr. West? We're seeing you, but we're not hearing you. Are you muted, sir?
Reverend Hanson, go first.
Reverend Hanson,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you now. Yes, we're hearing you, but we'll bring in Reverend Hanson first. Reverend Hanson, go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you for having me this morning, Stokeley. One of the things that as I meditate on this and what the World Economic Forum is trying to do, I know that they are advancing the plan of God, for His return. Sometimes we look at these things and we wonder why they're happening, but they're really just putting things in place for the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. One of the things that Christ,
so your take on it is that they're advancing the return of Christ.
Yes, and some of us don't want. Listen, we really love this world, Stokeley. Some of us don't really want to leave here, and some of us don't really believe that Christ is coming back. So when we see these things happening, we really shouldn't be panicking. We should see, as God using these people to put things in place for His return, because they have to happen. It can't come back unless some of these things happen.
Stick a pin there. Dr. West, your thoughts? Dr. West.
I'm going to turn off my camera because my bandwidth is paused and doesn't seem that good. Are you hearing me clearly?
We're hearing you, but you're distorted.
The first thing we got to watch is who are these people who are seeking to bring one world government? I'm distorted. Let me take off the camera so that the bandwidth will be improved. Okay, is that better? The people who are trying to bring this one world government are elite who think that they are smarter than everybody else. Okay, and so they are going to try to make a world that they think is the best world that could possibly be. The problem with that is that it may not be so at all. And who is going to be competing? Who is going to be able to come with the... For example, not all scientists believe, for example, that climate change is that carbon dioxide.
I think we have lost Dr. West, at least for the time being. We'll bring him back in. Mr. Hanson, continue your thoughts.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, Stokely, I believe that we are really heading in the final hour of our journey on this earth, and we need to face that reality. What we should be doing as Christians is try to get closer to the Lord and try to really evangelize as much persons as we can, because these evil people will continue their evil. They will use whatever method
You're
and means
describing
they
them as
can.
evil. You're describing them as evil people.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And unless they repent, they will go to hell. And I will ask God to help me to judge some of them. But they are really evil because
On that note, sir, we're going to take a break because we are now at 7:15. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Things you can do online with NCB in 10.6 minutes or less. On your marks, go! Open a bank account. Open an investment account. Get a fast cash or pay advance loan. Sign up for our mobile app and pay bills, make transfers, and check your balances. Get pre-qualified for your dream home. Apply for a credit card. Apply for an auto loan to buy your dream car. Visit www.jncb.com/getdigital to get your financial goals moving NCB fast.
Get ready for another Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 to 5, April 19. 2 o'clock will be time for a blast. More prayer, more power. 2:15 inside the evidence. We continue to hear from Anna Leo, who experienced God's love and deliverance from mental issues after she did an abortion. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit with Bible School founder, academic dean, bishop, apostle, Dr. Romian Facey of the Freedom Evangelical Association. All this and more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, your host, Sarah, and the chirpy one on the family station, Love 101.
I choose to start this year smiling with Colgate-Palmolive. By purchasing selected Colgate-Palmolive products at participating stores, receive premiums or samples. Promotion available from February 1st to March 17th. Go on, what are you waiting for? Start this year smiling with Colgate-Palmolive.
Hello and welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch, and our topic is really a question. World governments to unite? That's the question. And our guests are Dr. Wayne West, Chairman, Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. And of course, we have also Reverend Basil Hanson, Founder, President, MTM TV, MTM Television, and Christian activist. We do apologize to our listeners for the distortions we've had this morning so far in the program. We did lose Dr. Wayne West initially before the break, and Reverend Basil Hanson, are you back with us?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm back with you now.
Before we bring you back in, Dr. West, we're going to let Reverend Hanson finish his point he was making just prior to the break. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, man, I was saying, Stokely, you see, if anybody who tries to dethrone God is evil. You know, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and we all know that God owns the earth. And regardless of what man tries to do, they can only do what God allows them to do. They cannot go beyond what God allows them. So we know that men trying to control another man is really evil, and not even God is doing that. So we know that this plan is actually tracking the return of our Lord and Savior. And so I never thought I would live to see the day when these things would be happening. I thought I would come to this earth, live my life, do what I need to do, and leave. And those who left behind would be the one to deal with all of these great reset, and all the problems. Most of us didn't thought that we would be here, to face some of these problems that we are now facing. So it is interesting time for me, and I know that it is a time when I am learning more to trust God completely, wholeheartedly, because these evil men will not prevail in the final analysis. good will triumph. You know, Stokely, one of the
Um,
things that Christ said before he left this earth in the physical, he said, I am praying that they may be one, which is the Christian community, that oneness will prevail among us. Now, if oneness is so difficult to accomplish, how is it that these guys are going to be united to run the world? It's going to be a problem. You know, it is a
Very interesting
facade,
point.
and they continue to pull the wolves over people's eyes to make people feel that they are united. There's no unity among them. Yeah,
Very
there's no
interesting
unity.
point.
So I believe we are living in interesting times.
Indeed, quite interesting. And for the benefit of the listeners, the World Government Summit was held in Dubai, and anyone can go on the worldgovernmentsummit.org website, www.worldgovernmentsummit.org. They have an about page, and a lot of the relevant information in relation to that summit is right there. And Dr. West, before the break, sir, you were making an interesting point, but your line got distorted. We'd like to complete that thought. You mentioned something about the climate.
First of all, let me just put you on
Scientists and the climate.
that I think we get into the time where Christ is returning. But with respect to the specific politics that are taking place in the moment, no, I don't think there's going to be any one world government. Certainly, the left-leaning governments in the West would like to have that happen. But China and Russia and probably India are not going to have any part of that. So I don't think it's going to happen.
And Iran.
Those are the BRICS nation, I think they call them. Brazil, I think, is part of that. But what's actually happening right now is that instead of the world becoming only having one superpower in the USA, it's going to be fragmented. And the Chinese and the Russians are seeking to control Europe because whoever controls Europe really becomes the world superpower. And they're seeking to displace America from its control over Europe. So they may try to do that, but it's not going to happen. That's one. The second thing is that if you were to have a one world government, you would not be able to have competing ideas come to the fore easily, because these things are controlled, like I say, by some elite people in various places who think they are smarter than everybody else, and that their ideas on how the world should be is the best, and everybody else should follow them. But if we were to do that, for example, we would never have an Einstein. For example, Einstein was not a part of the university structure when he wrote his theories of special relativity and general relativity. He was a clerk working in the patent office in Austria. He was not in the university, but he came up with the idea and he was able to get his ideas out, and people recognized they were great. Similarly, Bill Gates, who is part of this one goal thing, when he developed Microsoft and in fact won the contract with IBM for software for their computers, he competed against a professor from Harvard, and his idea won. So one world governments tend to be totalitarian, and this is one of the reasons why the communist system failed, because ideas tend to come from the top, and everybody had to line up with the ideas, and often those ideas were just plain bad. And you need fresh sources of ideas that have a marketplace that they can be presented and discussed. And that is why capitalism works so well, because it allows new ideas to come up. And I put it to you that Elon Musk, for example, the reason why he's taking over Twitter is because these same people want to control how corporations access funds. So they have come up with this idea of ESG, which is how the company behaves economically, how it is socially. That usually means whether you support LGBT issues and feminism and abortion, and your government structure. And Elon Musk found that his company, Tesla, was given a poor rating by these people, the same people in the World Economic Forum. And he would have had problems getting access to funding because they want to set a structure in place that you cannot get loans unless you meet their criteria. And then what they want to do is control free speech. All right? And Twitter, for example, is a big source of freedom of speech. And it's also a big source of blocking freedom of speech. That's why they moved President Trump. And Elon Musk, in order to protect his company, I think that's one of the main reasons he's doing it, to protect his company, decided, listen, we're going to open up free speech so that ideas can be freely discussed, which you will not get if you have a one world government.
Interesting that you said all of that, Dr. West. And how do you look at the clip that was played earlier on, where that particular participant made mention of the currency playing a key role in relation to countries coming together to fight these various, issues of climate change, etc. And you did mention a point about climate change. If you want to finish that thought as well, Dr. West.
Unfortunately, my internet was given problems at the time, so I wasn't hearing clearly what they were saying. But I know, from reading around these things, they want to control individual behavior. Okay, just as the Chinese have a quote unquote social credit system, whereby if you behave badly and they see you do various things, they cut off your access to, your access to being able to spend. I believe that from what I gleaned, like I said, I didn't hear it clearly from what the person was saying, is that all these digital currencies, these are ways of controlling what the individual can do. And I think one of the things they want to do, I actually saw a clip of something, is to see how you spend your money. And if you spend your money in a way that causes, quote unquote, more carbon dioxide, they could shut down your money from your spending from a central source. Listen, these people are totalitarian. What they want to do is to control individuals, okay? So you do only what you are allowed to do because they are the smart people and they will tell everybody else what to do. So
and you don't want to finish the point you're making about the climate, or do I bring back in Mr.
Well, okay, let me just make it really quickly. Not all scientists agree that human beings, the carbon dioxide produced by human beings, is the cause of any climate change, because carbon dioxide levels have been higher in the past. They go through cyclic changes, and we know that there's a political agenda attached to controlling carbon dioxide. The same people who want to control people, but the science, they always say that all scientists agree. That is not true. It is absolutely not true. Some do not, and I'll leave it there for the time.
Interesting, Reverend Hanson. It seems as if first of all, I noticed that around the time when they had this World Government Summit in Dubai, I think a lot of us were reading about and watching video clips of what happened between Will Smith and Chris Rock. Interesting, it happened at around that time. Now, having seen what was happening in Dubai, my antenna went up, and immediately I thought about the Book of Revelation. I'm not saying this is one world government they're forming here, but one thing I kept hearing was this whole matter of a new world order, and it was said a few times or a couple of times.
And the founder of the World Economic Forum did make that statement in his book, The Great Reset.
Yes.
I agree with Dr. West that, we are in that period where men are trying to go ahead of God. And so I believe that if you're going to have a one world government, I am not hearing that you can live anywhere you want to live in the world. I'm not hearing that. The one world government is going to be about controlling your money, and tell you what kind of behavior, immoral behavior, is accepted. And everybody should line up that. So the one world government, as I said, the war in Ukraine right now has put a dampener on that, because they are realizing that not everybody is going, as Dr. West said, not everybody is going to go down that road. The one world government is going to be very difficult to implement. Men like power. And we want to know how you're going to choose who is going to run the world, how you're going to do that. People like power, and I don't see you're going to have no one world government just like that. I think even this pandemic that we are going through right now, I think there are some world leaders who are with it in the initial stage, but I think now they are kind of backing off because they realize this thing is not beneficial to them and their people. And so they are now pulling back. So as you go along and the thing unfold, you realize that this thing is only benefiting one group of people. So people are waking up to what is happening. It's interesting. Revelation says there will be a one world order. So we wait to see how it is going to happen. If God says it,
Yeah.
it will happen. But
And
how,
we
I
want to
don't know. And
hear. We would like to hear as well a little bit more about digital currency, how that will really work. We have looked at it already on the Morning Watch, but more anon. And I want to thank both you, Reverend Hanson and Dr. West, for being with us in this first watch. We do apologize to our listeners for the distortions that they may have heard in relation to the playing of the clip and to the hearing of a few of our guests here on the panel. And gentlemen, thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Always a pleasure having you both. Listeners, please stay with us on the Morning Watch. We'll be right back after this break.
My pleasure. Good morning, and good morning again, Basil. Bye-bye.
This is Love 101 FM, the family station. Apply today for a DBJ Recovery line of credit or Go Digital Loan to help you find a way. The time by J and Small Business Loans. It is now 7:30, approaching 7:31. Stay tuned, my friends. We'll be right back after these messages.
Every day I get bigger, every day I get better. I'm a star in that shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. Every step that I take, oh yeah. Feeling great cause I'm learning, yeah. I'm a star in that shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. La 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 la. Watch me grow with Alexa Plus.
Help support their mental development at this important stage with a unique combination of nutrients from Lacta Plus. This product is not intended to be a substitute for breast milk.
Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers for angiogram, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
He knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Jamaica Gleaner, for instance, jury trials to resume April 20th as COVID wanes. Jury trials to, as it indicates, jury trials to resume April 20th as COVID wanes. We also have Carifta 2002. Jamaica's Carifta dominance continues. Jamaica's Carifta dominance continues. We now turn to the Jamaica Observer. Quite a number of stories here. We see mention of Carifta as well. An interesting one here. Teachers, colleges say no to proposed measures in JTC bill. teachers, colleges say no to proposed measures in JTC bill. And there is a picture here of Anderson, Mr. Anderson. We must be careful we don't dumb down the profession instead of professionalizing profession. And this is, of course, Dr. Garth Anderson. And of course, he was making his point very stridently there. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Of course, coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our social media question, which is, what would world governance look like and mean to you? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Where are the campus eyes?
We are the family station for a reason. So whether you are in high school, college, university, or even if you are a school dropout, Campus Connection will keep you in the loop of the opportunities, scholarships, school training programs, and even a job that's available just for you. And there's a little motivation inside every episode. We got the scoop, and you can hear it too every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. here on Love 101 FM with yours truly, Jonathan Fletcher, and my co-host, Anesta Samuels, as we share all things school and more. We are in the know, and you should be too.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Shane, do we have any comments in relation to our social media question? What would
Yes,
world
we
governance
do.
look like mean to you?
Yes, we do. Let's play a voice note at this time.
Uniting world governance would mean that Bible days are fulfilling. It will be the fulfillment of prophecies made hundreds of years ago. It would look like what happened during the COVID period when the entire world was on lockdown. That is what world governance would look like.
All right, so that's the only one we're seeing at this time. Over to you, Stokeley.
It's the only one, but it's quite powerful. Well, we move right into the second watch. And of course, if you look at the World Health Organization's website, you will see the following. Global leaders unite in urgent call for international pandemic treaty. Now, according to the article, we can expect other pandemics and additional major health emergencies, and it will be something for which various countries and the relevant agencies will need to coordinate and coalesce around. And it was also indicated that no single government or multilateral agency will be able to deal with it on their own. Hence the call for this unity. But should Jamaica consider joining such a treaty, bearing in mind that treaties are things that need to be agreed between all the relevant state parties? No country would be forced or should be forced to enter into a treaty. Certainly not. And as someone who has lectured international law, that is how it ought to be. So we have online today Arlene Harrison Henry. Is it? Well, attorney at law, and who has announced, or it has been announced, that she's retiring as a public defender. And of course, well-known human rights advocate. We also have online Wendell Wilkins, well-known and noted attorney at law as well. Arlene Harrison Henry, Wendell Wilkins, good morning to you both.
Good morning to you and your listeners. And good morning.
Hope you had a great weekend.
I certainly did. I did the best I could. I did the best I could.
Okay.
Great. Now, starting with you, Arlene Harrison Henry, when I learned about the pandemic treaty, not in force at this time, but proposed pandemic treaty, and quite a number of countries, in fact, from 2021, actually, there was, in fact, a meeting, it would appear, and even the president of Rwanda, who was here recently, he was a part of that, and it was indicated that we may need an international pandemic treaty to deal with any future pandemic, and to deal with it in a way where governments, having signed on to this treaty, you wouldn't have the relevant bureaucratic issues that might have arisen with the recent COVID situation. So, they'd be able to fast implement measures to deal with any future pandemic. It sounds interesting and it sounds good on the face of it, but I guess because of what I lecture in international law as well as in law and governance, I began to think of a number of things. And one of the first things that struck me was the issue of sovereignty. Arlene Harrison Henry, as a human rights attorney at law, how does it strike you? And do you have any concerns?
Let me just say good morning again. And to offer clarification, I have resigned as public defender. So I'm not resigned. I have retired as public defender. So I'm not retiring. I've already retired. So you're talking to me this morning as a citizen of this country, as someone who has lived here all her life. I've never, apart from the years I spent in Barbados, which was 2 years. So what I've observed is the intention to bring this treaty, convention, understanding into effect by 2024. I think it is a fact that we need some structure, and I think the World Health Organization has that in place, where alarm bells can be rung, where there are health issues, say Ebola, which occurred a couple of years ago, say COVID. We do need a body that can say to the world, there is a pandemic out east. We may consider taking measures to protect ourselves, or we may consider taking measures to prevent it from coming into our space. So there is no doubt that there is need for some international alarm bells, international frame that countries can be advised. The question, however, of a treaty or a convention or some international agreement amongst countries raises other issues. And one of the issues it raised for me is the participation of countries in discussing this idea. The voices, not only of governments, but the voices of human rights, the human rights community, civil society, communities, because such a treaty or understanding can only be developed within the framework of the right to health.
I want to ask you to pause there one moment, Madam Public Defender, only because I want to bring in Wendell Wilkins before we head to the break. Mr. Wilkins, good morning again. Any thoughts before we head to the break?
Yeah.
Any thoughts that you have before we head to the break on the proposed?
Okay, yes.
pandemic treaty?
I believe that the proposal that is now on the international table of many countries to have an international agreement of sorts that will coordinate in a better way any pandemic outbreak, similar to or even more serious than the COVID-19 pandemic, is a good idea, because presently the world operates in a very integrated manner, and one sort of disease outbreak in one corner of the globe can rapidly spread throughout the globe. So
hold that thought, Mr. Wilkins, only because we're upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
And over, get the best health plan as well as fabulous discounts. Visit ccrponline.org today or call 469-1944 and live life to the fullest. The time by CCRP is...
It is 7:45.
If you're a farmer or a fisher folk, this one's for you. Sagicor AgriCare Plan. With AgriCare Plan, you can get affordable insurance coverage for you and your family. Life insurance, critical illness coverage, or health insurance for as little as $1,700 every 3 months. Visit SagicorAgricare.com to learn more. Farmers and fisher folk, get the insurance coverage your family deserves today with Sagicor AgriCare Plan.
Ladies, this is a public service announcement. Have no fear. Do your pap smear. For you no one of crosses take you down there. Now the way this your test, your set up and design is to pick up early warning sign before any cancer start to appear. And if you get treatment, then you're gone there. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Love and big up and respect yourself. Make sure that you go take yourself. We do your pap smear, you fit protect yourself.
A message brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. JN Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic is a question, really. An international pandemic treaty. Our guests are human rights attorney at law and retired public defender, Arlene Harrison Henry, and we also have attorney at law, Wendell Wilkins. Before the break, Mr. Wilkins, you're making the point that you think having an international pandemic treaty is a good idea. Was that the end of your thought, or you have something to add, sir, before we bring back?
Yes, because I was saying an outbreak of disease in one part of this world can rapidly spread to other parts because of the integrated nature of countries and nations and travel and trade and commerce. And therefore, we cannot be myopic, nationalistic in how we approach the matter of pandemics and the outbreak of disease nowadays.
Interesting. So, following on what you just said, we cannot be nationalistic and myopic. What if there is a collision between what an international body, such as the World Health Organization, would wish to have implemented in a given country, and it somehow clashing with the sovereignty of the country in question because of a difference in view, a difference in opinion, a difference in approach? Every country is, yes, countries are integrated, but each country is different. Different cultures, different health situations, different races of people who may react differently to different things, even in terms of health, different climates. So some countries are more tropical and some countries are colder. kind of one-size-fits-all approach work everywhere. So how do you see that happening, Mr. Wilkins, if there were to be a collision between the national sovereignty of the country and an international body such as the World Health Organization, as well-intentioned as they may be?
Well, that is the danger that will tend towards a failure of an effective international agreement or treaty on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response, because the automatic response, almost a knee-jerk response, is always national interest and domestic policies and politics comes first and foremost for each country or most countries, and it will override the global interest. You have something called a global interest, where you look to the better good of the globe and not myopically on the national interest or domestic politics. And that is the problem with this kind of treaty. As we have seen in the COVID-19 dispensation. The other matter I quickly want to stick in here is that in having a global approach and to see where it can effectively work, we have to remember individual rights and make a balance between the global interest and national public good as against individual rights and freedom. There has to be an examination and a settling of that aspect of this particular proposal for pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response treaty.
Very interesting, because an international body such as the WHO might say, well, they think all persons should receive a particular medical treatment, and maybe the citizens of a particular country may say no, or some citizens of that country or some individuals may say no. Bringing back in Arlene Harrison Henry, you were making a very, very critical point in relation to human rights organizations and civil society bodies needing to, as it were, come together. I hope I'm not misquoting you in terms of how to respond to these sorts of issues. Harrison Henry, please continue.
I really am saying that any global treaty must take into account the right to health. So the context of our discussion of a global treaty must be inextricably connected to the right of every individual to health.
If I could insert something here, Arlene Harrison Henry, the right to health is not, for instance, in our current charter. I note that, but you have raised the issue of the right to health as a human right. I think that's what you're doing. Can you say something? Can you say a little bit more about that? Because listeners may be wondering what exactly you mean.
Well, the right to health simply means or includes a number of rights. It includes the right to a clean and productive environment. Let's start there. Yes. And I say that because of all the dust nuisance created all over the country with road work and other construction, which we support, or I support development, but there are ways of more adequately protecting communities from dust. The right to health also includes not only the productive environment, it includes conserving and protecting our environment. It includes access to adequate, relevant, and appropriate health care in both public and private sector. It includes the right to adequate nutrition to be a part of the entire human race. So I have a concern when I hear people talking about, we need a international response. Does that international response mean, therefore, that I would be required to take a vaccination? And I want to say, because I've said it 1,000 times, I took the vaccines. I was vaccinated twice and I took the booster. That is my individual assessment of my own health, my age, my lifestyle, and I took that decision for myself. Not everyone in my family did. And I respect the rights of those in my family who said, well, we're not supporting the vaccines. It is an individual decision, and that has been the position. You see, the international community, with the greatest respect, is very selective on what it is they want to discuss and the agenda that they have. Very selective. We have, for instance, the first human rights treaty, Universal Declaration, which in the main remains aspirational. It remains the hope of people to achieve certain things for themselves and their family, being members of this very global community. And for instance, to give another example as to how people are selective, what is being done to stamp out racism, to stamp out discrimination? Where is this big international community? We have seen how in recent times they've organized themselves quickly to do this and to take certain action. And I'm talking about the war. And let me just say, nothing justifies war. Nothing justifies violence. But we have seen this powerful international community, dominated primarily by the West, intervene.
Yes.
Intervene in relation to racism, intervene in relation to poverty, intervene in relation to imbalances and discrimination, intervene in all those such important matters. And that is all I really have to say about this proposed international treaty. Let us hear the discussion locally. Has our Foreign Affairs Ministry, for instance, been engaged? Who are the people talking about it? What does it mean? It means, for argument's sake, and before I even go any further, if the vaccines could save lives, right, as some people claim, or reduce one's adverse impact of the virus on one and reduce one's vulnerability to going into hospital, then certainly poor countries never get it. Look at that imbalance and inequitable distribution of that vaccine. Talk about some of those core issues that continue to dominate the world. And Stokeley, those are my comments, you know. I really don't like selective topics that, you know, we do this and so on. And I don't like when we get selective as a world community. Racism and discrimination continues to hold back people. Inadequacy of opportunities for people continue to hold back generations of people all around the globe. Talk about some of those things, man.
Yes, interesting. In fact, I know that if, for instance, a World Health Organization, for example, were to mandate or to say that all persons globally should be receiving any particular injection against COVID-19, it would spark furor among many, many persons in many, many countries because, like you, Mrs. Harrison Henry, some persons are fine with taking it and others are not. And everyone's rights to choose should be respected in that regard. I think we're totally out of time. Gentleman and lady, I want to thank both you, Mr. Wilkins, for being with us, as well as Mrs. Harrison Henry. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts, and we are grateful that you were both able to spare the time to be with us today. Thank you, our listeners and viewers, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Love Morning Watch on our app, Love 101. Download it today and stay connected to us, the family station, Love 101 FM, and we remain the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing back to Love in the Morning with Rashane Douglas.
Thank you, Stokeley. All the best to you now, my friend.
And to you too, sir.
NHF beneficiaries enrolled for diabetes can get a glucometer with use of their NHF card. Apply online at nhf.org.jm. The time